We are born. Hello and welcome to this. Today we have Pauline Kire, who will tell us a little bit about herself and why she's called the Cyber Mamushka. Welcome, Pauline.
Thank you, Deo, and thank you so much for having me on the episode. Again, my name is Pauline Kire Senyange. I am a wife, a mom to two incredible children, cybersecurity professional, and the face and writing voice behind the Cyber Mamushka. Some of the fun things about me is that I love to write, to keep people's blood pressures down. I like reading humorous content. I like window shopping, so you'll definitely find me at a certain mall around you or next to you. I enjoy drinking tea. I love music. So if there's a fun concert in town, you'll still find me there. And I think most importantly is that I love the Lord. And when I'm not busy with my corporate job, I spend my time navigating family life, trying to remind those close to me to lock the doors, update their phones, and to question messages that start with hello dear or please see attached. So in a nutshell, that's Pauline.
Okay. So if you have to dive into who you are as the Cyber Mamushka, so you call yourself a Cyber Mamushka. It sounds, first of all, protective and fierce. Why did you decide to take on that role in the industry as the Cyber Mamushka instead of an analyst or an officer?
Okay. So, I usually love to tell stories before I dive into why. So the Cyber Mamushka was birthed in 2022, shortly after the birth of my first child. And it started with conversations that kept repeating themselves. People asking, how did this happen? Of course, after being scammed or hacked or compromised. But what truly sparked the conversation, or what sparked the passion to do something about it, was when the people close to me, and that is family and friends, became victims of cyber incidents. I mean, these people were smart, they were careful people, but that's when it stopped being theoretical to me. So stepping into motherhood shifted how I thought about protection, not just reacting to incidents, but preparing people before things go wrong. Now back to why the Cyber Mamushka name. So in the early days of my cybersecurity career, I used to think of myself as a cyber ninja, focused, technical, and, defending systems in the shadows. But after my child was born, that identity no longer felt complete. I started thinking maybe this is about time that I changed the name to, let's say, Cyber Mommy, from Cyber Ninja. And then it clicked. That's when Mamushka came about. So Mamushka is a name that carries mother. First of all, it means mom or mother. And to me, it's a name that carries motherhood, protection, and, other layers, just as cybersecurity itself. So that's how the Cyber Mamushka came to be, not just a name, but a reflection of how my role had evolved from protecting systems to now helping raise cyber-aware humans. Yeah.
So what about the blog posts as generally? How did it come about deciding to now publish your work? I'm sure it took a lot of courage to actually bring out your voice.
So again, 2022, when of course I decided, you know what, I had to do something about the different cyber incidents I had seen within my family and my friends, especially the community where I do my shopping from. I decided to start writing. But of course, when you look at my blog, I don't write for, experts like you, Deo. I write for the person at home. I write for the parent. I write for the teen. And my plan was, and which is still the same plan, is that if a parent can go through my blog and they can relate with it and it can carry them, throughout that day, that same parent will have a conversation with a mechanic, because I know a mechanic can't probably go through my blog. They will not probably have the time or even know where to find it. But I know that if a parent or a teenager or a caretaker, if they go through the blog and relate with it, they'll have those conversations with a lady at the market, with the mechanic. And so the first resource that I created out of 2022 was the blog. And the audience for that blog was a family or a family unit, the parents, the teenagers, or the caretakers.
Okay, yeah, I think still that rotates around your tagline, which is cyber safety begins at home.
Yeah, cyber
So
safety.
we usually actually treat security as cyber safety begins at home. We usually treat cybersecurity as a corporate problem. But you argue that if we don't fix the culture at the kitchen table, the boardroom doesn't stand a chance. Can you explain your philosophy on why the family unit is actually the most critical firewall we have?
Yeah, so that's exactly it. Cyber safety begins at home isn't just a tagline. I truly believe it's a belief system. So when we treat cybersecurity as a corporate problem, because, well, that's where the biggest systems and budgets sit. But the culture doesn't start at the boardroom, right? It starts at home, at the dining table, or what you would call the kitchen table. The habits people bring to work are the habits that they've already practiced at home. How they handle urgency, how they respond to messages from authority, whether they pause before clicking, whether asking questions feels safe or embarrassing. All these things are learned at home. So if a child grows up seeing passwords being shared casually, I mean, you're writing a password on a sticky note, they probably will learn that. If they links are clicked without thinking, they usually pick that up. Or trust is given automatically, no amount of corporate training will fully undo that later. So, and if adults at home are already overwhelmed, they are ashamed or scared to admit mistakes, that same behavior will definitely show up at work. So I see the family unit as the first and most honest firewall we have. Well, not because families are perfect, but because that's where the behavior is formed, it's repeated, and it's normalized. So when we fix that culture at the kitchen table or at the dining table through conversations, when curiosity is encouraged, when pausing is normalized, when saying I'm not sure is safe, that boardroom, the boardroom benefits automatically. So I truly believe that cybersecurity isn't something we suddenly switch on when we barge into office, but it's something we practice daily, it's something we model, and it's something we raise. Hence that tagline,
Yeah.
cyber safety begins at home.
So if I get you right, it's more of if we don't build the culture at the early stage, it's usually harder to pick it up later on.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. So every protector has an original story. Basically, we know all the great characters usually have an origin story. And was there actually a specific moment, maybe a breach in your family or community that actually made you realize that you had to step in and become a guardian for the Ugandans? You've hinted on it, but you've not given like a specific story. Could you share a specific one?
Okay, so for me, it just wasn't one breach, it was several. I had a family member that succumbed to one of those incidents, was a victim to one of those cyber incidents. I had a friend whose WhatsApp account was hijacked. I have the lady at the market whose mobile money account was wiped. Different people, different situations, but the same outcome. Again, they were all impacted. And I think what was troubling to me was after spending so many years in cybersecurity, protecting my employer's crown jewels, systems, data, identities, I was hoping that I was doing all that well. When I turned to look at these people that I care about, I kept asking myself a question. Why were these people suffering? Why is it that I couldn't do anything, something different about it, right? So they were not careless. They were ordinary people navigating a digital world that probably was never explained to them in a way that made sense. And, after each incident, I saw, the same thing, confusion, shame, silence. That's when I realized, that this had to become personal to me. And so it became personal to me. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that is true because sometimes you find that when you are currently scammed, that's when people actually realize how these challenges happen. And, it doesn't only happen to us, the technical people, but also the people who are actually down. And those are the people who
Yes.
are hit the most, those who don't have that specific knowledge on those specific areas.
Yeah.
And to make it worse, and if you bring a professional like Pauline, and if she doesn't know how to speak in their language, meaning how do you reflect that same message
They shut
of
down.
a data breach or a shutdown to them in a language they can easily understand? It makes it hard for them to actually pick up those, yeah, whether it's even things like vishing or
Yeah.
smishing or any of those where they people usually are affected with most of those keywords, and yeah,
True.
it's usually very hard to bring it out.
So in my blog, I use a lot of storytelling. I use a lot of humor. And if you go through most of my posts, you will rarely come across cybersecurity jargon. Why? I wouldn't want a family member to read and then, still be shocked or still be confused, because the whole point of that blog is that it's supposed to connect me to the wider community. Parents should read a blog post and be like,
Yeah.
man, this happened to me. And so maybe the next time they're having a conversation with somebody outside their home, they can relay that message. So there's a lot of storytelling, a lot of humor, and no more words, not our technical jargon. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that the first time I actually listened to you was an ISC2 program, and you were having a particular conversation. I think it was like one of your first.
Cybersecurity
I'm not sure if it
awareness.
was your first. Yes, I was like, oh my goodness. I actually texted someone we all share a relationship with, Diana, and she was like, asked her, where have you been hiding this person? Like, she's really good. Like, the way she speaks,
Thank
the way
you.
she's articulating, and then plus also the way you bring out your stories, because immediately I got to know you. I had to research about you. Then I saw the Cyber Mamushka. I'm like, wow, the storytelling was really good, and the way you bring out the topic in a way that someone even who doesn't know anything at all cybersecurity can actually pick it up and be like, yes, this I've actually got it. I was actually
Thank
amazed.
you.
I was like, this human being is really good. So, yeah. So that's why I
I
wanted
am
to reach
hoping
out
we
there
could
and
pull
then
you.
even.
Hoping we could pull you into cybersecurity awareness as well.
I'm telling you, as
Okay.
yeah. Don't worry, I'm already wood. So if you play your cards right, so
All right.
I was reading actually one of your blog posts, which you actually talked of the national IDs, which are last seen on the roadside on, those papers which usually have those tolls with people's information, PII data, personal identifiable information. You find someone eating your UNEB results on
Right.
a paper. This is such a unique Ugandan problem. So how do you teach people about this privacy in our culture, where people actually can now willingly ensure that our data is actually maintained and our security is maintained from the street level to the corporate level?
Okay. So first of all, that title makes people laugh because it's painfully familiar, right? And that's exactly why I wrote it. So in Uganda, we are communal by nature. We trust easily. We help each other, and we don't like appearing difficult. I've never met a Ugandan that is difficult. So a lady wrapping your plantain in a paper that has a number of national IDs doesn't feel reckless to her. It doesn't. It feels normal. It feels, cooperative. So the challenge is that our digital systems don't share the same sense of community. They don't know the intention. They just collect, store, sometimes expose the data. So I don't teach privacy by shaming people or telling them don't do this. I teach by, reframing the question. So instead of why did you hand over your national ID? I would like to ask things like, did this situation really need the national ID? So privacy education, especially in community cultures, in our communal cultures, sorry, isn't about, becoming suspicious of everyone. It's about learning to, know when to pause, when to ask. For example, was this the information? Okay, it's knowing when to pause or when to ask, what is this information going to be used for, or where will it end up? So the blog uses a lot of humor because, laughter opens up that door to reflection. When I throw in humor, somebody's able to laugh and able to reflect. And once somebody can laugh and say, I have done that before, they're already thinking differently. And that's how awareness starts, not by changing who we are as a people, but by helping our values survive, in a digital world.
Yeah, definitely. With humor, you can get away with so many statements by the.
Yeah, true. Yeah. It's funny because
Yes, continue.
it's funny, but every time I publish a blog post, I usually get somebody that will reach out and say, but you know what? I mean, this happened to me last week, or this incident actually happened in our church WhatsApp group. Somebody's account got hacked. The fact that I use humor, people are willing to open up and even share stories from, wherever they come from. So humor definitely works for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a byproduct. That's why I called you on the show. So, you've been tracking the hyper local scams like the Sheraton Reels and CapCut scam targeting
That was a big
creatives
one. Yeah.
in Kampala. So, how is the cybercrime scene in Uganda evolving? And are the scammers getting better at using our own local culture and aspiring and
Yes. So scams in
but
Uganda are becoming, yes, they are definitely
Colin,
becoming.
for
Yes, please.
context, could you share a bit of what the Sheraton Reels and the CapCut was about?
True. Of course, I was on Instagram, and I think this is where I got the story from. I do follow one of the photographers. I follow a couple of photographers on Instagram. So one of the guys had they received a message within their Instagram chat. This was a company. They use serious names. You could definitely take them seriously. So they reached out to this photographer. They wanted to do business with them. They were coming into Uganda and they wanted a travel photographer. You've heard of those travel photographers? Let's say if you're going to a national park and you would need a professionally taken picture or pictures, you definitely get a photographer. So they reach out to him. They're coming in from, I think, TZ, if I remember so well, and they would like to use their services. And one of the other things they mentioned that they had been referred to this particular photographer by another trusted photographer who was busy and couldn't take on the work. Already they were breaking down this guy's defenses or building trust. So they kept on, having those conversations for quite some time. It wasn't something that was done in a day. I think they must have pulled it off in like 2 to 3 weeks in order to build the trust. So towards the end, they're like, you know what? We're in the country. We are at Sheraton. We would like to meet. Fortunately, we don't have cash on us, but if you can help go and deposit some money on M-Pesa, since we are meeting today, we'll be able to reimburse. Now, remember, they've already built trust. This person knows, I'm going to meet a client. I think I already trust them. Now, let me go and deposit money on M-Pesa and then move to Sheraton. Of course, this photographer went ahead and did exactly that. I think they went downtown where there were M-Pesa agents and they managed to deposit some money. Immediately that was done. Of course, the scammer switched off their phone. But it so happens that they had done it to not just this particular photographer. They had done it to a couple of them during that period. So they are becoming much more hyper local, and I guess it's a sign that cybercrime is here to, it's really evolving. What used to be generic phishing, yeah, has shifted, into scams that feel familiar, aspirational, and very close to home, like, that Sheraton Reel.
Yeah,
I
yes.
think for me, what has changed is that the scammers are no longer guessing what might work. They are really paying attention to our culture, especially when it comes to content creators. They're paying a lot of attention to their culture, to their dreams, and their daily realities. They know people want visibility, they want opportunity, connection, and progress, and especially in our economy right now. So psychologically, these scams work, maybe because they don't trigger fear first, they trigger hope, right? So they look like opportunities, not they use familiar brands, local language, social proof to lower people's guards. And once urgency is added, or when they come limited slots or act now, or you've been selected, somehow the brain switches off from reasoning to reacting. So in a communal culture like ours in Uganda, trust is also a big factor. We are used to sharing information to get things done, and we don't like appearing like, suspicious or difficult. And the scammers are exploiting that instinct. So yes, they're getting better at using our context against us, and that's why awareness has to be just as local and as human. Once people understand why something feels believable, you're much better equipped to pause, and that pause is often something that can stop a scam.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like most of the times the fact that, yes, you've talked of someone is in a bad situation and they are looking for a way to make ends meet, they are
Yeah.
very highly compromisable.
Mm,
And yeah, I think it's paramount that we reinforce that. And for that,
true.
you're doing a very good job at it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You have a recurring segment called the Naughty Corner, where you talk about different things. And I love this because you don't shame. Your goal is to actually do correction, which you've talked about. So, is this unsuspecting parent or teenager who thinks everything is okay? How do you usually handle that?
Okay, so the idea of the naughty corner really came from that moment during Uganda's internet shutdown. It almost felt like as a country we had been put in a naughty corner for a few days. So that phrase naughty corner originally came out of a blog post. So I have a blog post that I published just after they had lifted the ban. And what forced us, I wrote it because it was quite interesting. I mean, I couldn't believe that people actually sat down and they were not holding their phones. I couldn't believe that people were having proper actual conversation. I noticed that most times when we over stick to our, over scroll, when we're overly on the internet, we overwhelm our brains. And sometimes I truly believe that's when the scammers take decide to play us as well.
I think you
That
call
phrase
this
that not yeah,
generation the I've forgotten the
screenshot
word you use for our
screenshot
generation.
generation.
Screenshot generation.
Yeah, yeah,
Screenshot generation.
yeah. So for me, during that period of the naughty corner, I noticed that a lot of scrolling stopped. The constant refreshing of the apps had also stopped. And many of us were actually left sitting, with our habits, realizing just how, online we had become without even noticing. So when I use the phrase naughty corner, it's not about blame. It's about pause. It's that moment of reflection before we jump right back in. It's a gentle reset, a reminder that sometimes the safest thing we can do digitally is to stop, reassess, and return more intentionally. So I think I'm one of those guys that were really grateful for the internet shutdown. I don't know if you were, Deo.
Well, it was a catch-22 kind of situation. Yes, I
Mm,
enjoyed it. No, I didn't enjoy it, but it put me in a hard situation. I actually had booked like 2 guests that week.
mm,
And
mm,
then I had to turn them down, and then we had to reschedule. Up to now, we haven't found a additional
that's a
time
lot.
slot for them yet. But hopefully, we'll be able to film with those. That is the only thing which pained me. But the rest, it was a good time for
Mm,
reflection because I feel like
yeah.
it's good to always sit back and then view things from a different perspective. I feel most of the times we end up having this thing of run from one thing to the other, run from one thing to the other because of,
And
social media, what? Yeah.
and the
And
scammers
we
really
end up,
exploit that. The fact that we
yeah.
are always moving on to one thing, onto another,
mm,
they exploit that a lot. So I think the naughty corner was a godsend event for some for some of the family members.
that is true.
Mm.
And I feel like if it was also still on, it would also cause a lot of commotion in terms of issues concerning elections, issues concerning what. And it's easy
Yes.
to send wrong information during that time very well.
There
And
was a
the fact
lot
that
of misinformation.
mm, the fact that there's a lot of social media influencers, it even makes the situation much more worse, and people believe in them.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it's yeah. So yes, back to screenshot generation. You call the youth a screenshot generation, so they document everything. So
Mm.
as the cyber Mamushka, does this terrify you? How do you teach the generation that lives for likes that their digital footprint is permanent?
Well, I wouldn't say it terrifies me, but it definitely concerns me and it also challenges me because, panic never teaches anyone, especially for the young people. So when I talk about the screenshot generation, I am really talking about how we document life digitally, not just for proof, but as a reflex. In Uganda, we screenshot everything. We screenshot memes, we screenshot chats, suspicious messages, just in case, and then we forward, to other people to warn them. So it's become like our version of memory and our version of conversation. But I wrote the blog post, and what it was doing, it was exploring the whole screenshotting as a double-edged sword. Screenshots can protect us from scams and fraud, but they can also expose more than we think. Let me take an innocent screenshot of your work chat. May it include, data, internal data or contacts that make, social engineering easier. So essentially, sharing your digital keys without even realizing. Then beyond privacy, screenshots have changed how, we relate to. We don't, talk to understand anymore. We scroll to verify. Then screenshots have replaced trust with time-stamped, suspicion. We live as if every word may it one day be used against us. That affects relationships, it affects workplaces and even friendships. So my focus isn't on stopping young people from documenting. No, that's neither realistic nor even helpful. It's on teaching them to pause before they capture and think before they share. So screenshots should help us or help protect us, not to, quietly compromise us or erode empathy. So the lesson from, that blog post was to, urge us one to protect without really poisoning, if I may call it that.
That's interesting. I
Yeah.
feel you're a very good podcaster. I'm waiting for your podcast, the Cyber Mamushka podcast.
I'm
It sounds
definitely
nice.
coming to you for notes after this. Yeah.
So yeah, that is true, especially now with this generation. You find that yes, we never need them once in a while, but okay, everything has its importance, but we need to now get the fine line of when is it important and when are we now overdoing it. Yeah. If you could write one rule on the refrigerator for all the Ugandan homes, the Mamushka law to be specific, that everyone must follow, what would it be?
I would write this. Not everything that asks deserves an answer. We live in a culture where we are taught to be helpful, to be polite and responsive. So when a message asks for information, especially if it sounds official, urgent or familiar, you feel the pressure to reply. But safety often starts with permission to question, permission to say nothing. And this rule reminds us that being silent is sometimes the safest response, right? The scammer doesn't owe you, they don't owe you your data, your time, or your attention, to every request that comes your way. So teaching this at home helps children, parents, and, grandparents to understand that boundaries aren't rude. I think they are productive. So not everything that, asks deserves an answer on the fridge.
Yeah, definitely. That helps a lot because most of the times, because we are expecting something, we usually assume that whoever comes to you, if you're expecting something, is your Jesus in that time. We're not saying
Right?
that some are not,
Or
but
somebody
you're
calls and
saying
you're
that
like, Deo, I've sent you a link. Please read for me this pin. And you're like, no, not everything that asks deserves an answer. Yeah.
yeah, so you need to be careful at the same time that, yeah, as much as things don't go well, you have to tread with caution.
Yeah,
So,
true.
first of all, Pauline, thank you for coming on the show. It's been quite remarkable. I feel you're going
You're
to take over
welcome.
my job one of these days. The show is now fully yours.
I'm learning a
I
lot from you
am.
as well.
A good thing you've got all my blueprint, so there's really nothing much I'm hiding anymore.
I just need those gadgets.
Huh?
I just need the
Eh,
mic and
there's
those
no
gadgets and
gadget
I'll
which
be
is
set.
required. No, the rest is fine actually. You already have this. The sound is already okay. So all you have to do is subscribe to this platform we are using for recording right now. The rest is okay.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. Now, yes. So we are in the parting shots. I don't know if you need to plug in WiCyS here. That's an option.
Yeah,
So Any parting shots for people where they can find you, where they can find the Cyber Mamushka? Yes.
Okay. Parting shots. First of all, cybersecurity isn't something we deploy at work or install on our devices. It's something that we practice in small, everyday moments. How we pause, how we question, how we share. I still think it's something we raise at home through habits, conversation, and the example we set for each other. I'm on LinkedIn, Pauline Kire, so you can definitely send me a shout out. I'm also a member of the WiCyS, Women in Cybersecurity, the Uganda affiliate, and this is for every lady out there that would like to make a career change or to join
Just tell us
a
your
group.
title.
My title.
It's a very big
I
title, and you're trying to hide it.
You are coming after me. But well, I am the vice president for WiCyS Uganda affiliate. And this is a kalango or to every lady out there that is looking for a group of, sisters to walk the journey with. You can definitely register and join the WiCyS Uganda affiliate. We are also looking for the gentlemen who can join us as allies. They can also register and join the WiCyS Uganda affiliate. There's a lot of stuff to learn. There's a lot of opportunities that I can't really break down here. But if you're interested, there's definitely room for you. And also, people can visit our site, www.thecybermamushka.com. We've got a blog post that comes out every Friday, every week. And then we've also got, a card game, CyberSafe or CyberSorry. Yeah, I think that's it
thank you
from
for
me.
that. I've added the Cyber Mamushka in the show notes. You will definitely share the remaining links. I'll add it in the... Yes. Other than that, see you all in the next episode. Thank you. Thank you.